We've got a couple books. Oh shoot. Oh, God. Literally just dropped them. Okay. We've got a couple books to review. I'm going to give you guys a review of all these books. It's not that many, but I'm a really slow reader. So these are not books that I read recently. They're books, I mean, except for this one, and this one. Can I get it together? Can I get it together? So these books are not ones that I've all read this year. Most of them are from last year in 2021, but I have kept a hold of them and I've wanted to review them for a while, and here's the video. So when I do reviews, because I'm a slow reader, it's probably going to be a cumulative reviews basically. So let's just jump into it. Let's just start. I'm going to start in order of when I read them. First up, I want to compare two poetry books. Well, maybe I'll tell you the books first. I'll tell you first which ones I'm going to be reviewing. So first we've got Bright Dead Things by Limon. It's a poetry book. Then we have Glass, Irony, and God by Carson. Another poetry book. Then we have Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know what I would call this, like self-help. It's like a nonfiction. All right, then we've got Just Kids by Patti Smith. Then A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I'm gonna tell you my real thoughts on this, okay? All right, then we got What is Real by Becker. This is my most recent read. Okay, let me just start. Okay, first of all, I've been wanting to compare these two books for a while. These are poetry books. The reason being is that I got this one. I probably ordered this one. This is Bright Dead Things by Limon. I probably bought this in 2021, I think. Basically, I saw somebody take a picture, like there's a photo of the book somewhere online, and it looked cool. I really liked the cover. And whoever was posting it said it was amazing. And the title sounded intriguing to me. Bright Dead Things, very like emo sounding to me. So I ordered it and then I read it. Well, I actually didn't read it all the way through. I couldn't get through it. Not that poetry books have to be read from cover to cover. It's a poetry book. But I don't even know. I just wanted to let you know. Like I just wanted to, because I don't talk about poetry, but I tried this out and it really did not work for me. And then I read this one and whoa, it's a crow outside. And then I read this and I kind of understood, like I don't know, I'm picky about poetry. I'm picky about this stuff. I'm not a huge poetry reader because of things like this, because the way I would describe this, it's not the extreme modern poetry of like cheesy stuff that teenagers would probably read, but it's like an attempt at being a poet, and I'm not a poet, so I can't say that I could do better, but I don't know. It doesn't come across to me like it's really, I don't even know how to say it, but this I would say is like the Sarah J. Maas version of poetry, if you know what I mean. So let me just read a little bit of this. This is the first poem in this. How to Triumph Like a Girl. I like the lady horses best. How they make it all look easy, like running 40 miles per hour is as fun as taking a nap or grass. I like their lady horse swagger. After winning ears up, girls ears up. But mainly, let's be honest, I like that they're ladies. As if this big dangerous animal is also a part of me. That somewhere inside the delicate skin of my body there are pumps of 8-pound female horse heart. There pumps an 8-pound female horse heart. Giant with power, heavy with blood. Don't you want to believe it? Don't you want to lift my shirt and see the huge beating genius machine that thinks, no, it knows it's going to come in first? It's okay. It's not terrible. It really isn't. It's just not my taste. I'm not saying it's bad poetry. Like, I don't know. It's not very nice what I'm saying about this. It's not that it's bad. It's okay to like write. I don't think people should not write if they're not good. Write. Do your thing. Create. I don't care. Like, do your thing. If you want to write poetry, freaking write poetry. Write your Tumblr poetry. I'm not saying don't. I'm not trying to discourage anybody. It doesn't have to be good. But I'm saying I didn't want to read it. Like, a lot of people clearly enjoyed this. So that's good. I don't love it. I'm just trying to say that because I want people should still create and continue to write poetry, but it's not for me. This is so long-winded for no reason. I don't need to be saying all this. I want to read one more, I think. This one is called Mowing. I'm not trying to make fun, but I'm just trying to let you know this is the kind of poetry this is. Okay. The man across the street is mowing 40 acres on a small lawnmower. It's so small it must take him days, so I imagine that he likes it. He must. He goes around each tree carefully. He has 10,000 trees. It's a tree farm, so there are so many trees. One circle here, one circle there. My dog and I have been watching. The lights escaping the sky, and there's this place I like to stand. It's before the rise, so I'm invisible. I'm standing there, and I've got the dog, and the man... See, I'm just like reading this. Okay. I'm standing there, and I've got the dog, and the man is mowing in his circles. So many circles. There are no birds or anything, or none that I can see. I imagine what it must be like to stay hidden, disappear in the dusky nothing, and stay still in the night. It's not sadness, though it may sound like it. I'm thinking about people and trees and how I wish I could be silent more, be more tree than anything else, less clumsy and loud, less crow, more cool, white pine, and how it's hard not to always want something else, not just to let the savage grass grow. So I basically didn't finish this poetry book. I didn't read a lot more. Again, if people enjoy it, I'm not saying it's inherently bad, but I look for different kind of poetry. It's fine to write about your observations in life, but not everyone, I guess, has a unique view on the world around them, but they're trying to sound like basically a lot of people have experience. I think everyone thinks they're very deep, but a lot of people have very deep experiences and very deep thoughts about the world around them. It's actually, we're humans, and most people probably think very deeply when they sit alone and they're looking at the world, but not everybody writes about it, and it's okay to write about it. So if you did like this, if you've ever read this, or if you like that kind of poetry, just simple, if you like simple poetry, then actually you probably like it. So I'd recommend it for those people. If you don't want something complex, it's actually fine. And also continue to write. I'm not saying don't write your poetry. If you write like this or you write worse, I'm not saying don't. You should still do it because that's still great. It's still great to create. So I'm not saying it's bad, but I enjoyed this more. So that's my review of that one. I need to, now that I've spoken about it, I'll probably give it away because I just don't get much from it. Now this, Glass, Irony, and God, it was like, there was a feeling to this. There's like a sense that you feel when reading this. And it's not one story, obviously. There's multiple short stories or like essays or poems in this. But throughout the whole thing, it's like there's this feeling of like heaviness, and like you're kind of, like it's dark, but not like dark in negative ways, but like as if you're actually in a dark room or dark space. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt a mood when reading this. So this one, needless to say, I would highly recommend this. But it depends on your taste in poetry. So I would also still recommend this for people that like that kind. But then if you like this kind, I'm going to read you a couple samples, I guess. I would recommend this. First poem in here. I can hear little clicks inside my dream. Night drips its silver tap down the back. At 4 a.m. I wake, thinking of the man who left in September. His name was Law. My face in the bathroom mirror has white streaks down it. I rinse the face and return to bed. Tomorrow I am going to visit my mother. She lives on a moor in the north. She lives alone. Spring opens like a blade there. I travel all day on trains and bring a lot of books. Some for my mother, some for me, including the collected works of Emily Bronte. This is my favorite author. Also my main fear, which I mean to confront. Whenever I visit my mother, I feel I am turning into Emily Bronte. My lonely life around me like a moor, my ungainly body stumping over the mud flats with a look of transformation that dies when I come into the kitchen door. When I come in the kitchen door. Yeah. What meat is it, Emily? We need. Okay, anyway, I'm not going to read more of that, but it's like not amazing either, but I don't know, I like her, maybe just like her perspective more. Okay, let me find, this is from Book of Isaiah. Isaiah awoke angry, lapping at Isaiah's ears. Black bird song, no, it was anger. God had filled Isaiah's ears with stingers. Once God and Isaiah were friends. God and Isaiah used to converse nightly. Isaiah would rush into the garden. They conversed under the branch. Night streamed down. From the sole of the foot to the head, God would make Isaiah ring. Isaiah had loved God, and now his love had turned to pain. Isaiah wanted a name for the pain. He called it sin. Now Isaiah was a man who believed he was a nation. Isaiah called the nation Judah, and the sin Judah's condition. Inside Isaiah, God saw the world sheep burning. Isaiah and God saw things differently. I can only tell you their actions. Isaiah addressed the nation. Man's brittleness, called Isaiah. The nation stirred in its husk and slept again. 2 slabs of bloody meat lay folded on its eyes like wings. Like a hard, glossy painting, the nation slept. Who can invent a new fear? Yet I have invented sin, thought Isaiah, running his hand over the knobs. And then, because of a great attraction between them, which Isaiah fought for and against for the rest of his life, God shattered Isaiah's indifference. God washed Isaiah's hair in fire. God took this day. From beneath its meat wings the nation listened. You, said Isaiah. No answer. I cannot hear you, Isaiah spoke again under the branch. Light bleached open the night camera. God arrived. God smashed Isaiah like glass through every socket of his nation. Liar, said God. Isaiah put his hands on his coat. He put his hands on his face. Isaiah is a small man, said Isaiah, but no liar. God paused. And so that was their contract. Brittle on both sides, no lying. Isaiah's wife came to the doorway. The doorpost had moved. What's that sound, said Isaiah's wife. The fear of the Lord, said Isaiah. He grinned in the dark, and she went back inside. Okay, I don't know. I just think it's nothing amazing, but there's something being said there. There's something. Do you know what I mean? There's something to interpret. It's like just her knowledge or her like introspection or something. You can just tell there's something deeper that she's thinking of in her mind, and that comes through in her writing. There's something that she's trying to discover or try to, study in life. So I found more, I don't know, I connected more with this and less with the other one. But those are the poetry books. Who is still watching this right now? I just feel like it was so negative, and I don't want to be negative. I'm not trying to be mean, but those are those. Okay, next book. This book is one I highly, highly, highly recommend. This is the only book I've ever read by Malcolm Gladwell. This is Outliers. This is the story of success. This book has changed my perspective on all of life, my own life, everybody's life. It's like crazy. So basically, if you've read some of his writing before, then you'll kind of know the way that he writes, but I can't even explain it. He is very good at studying the topics that he's writing about, and then he's very good at explaining it. And I don't know, he pulls together so many different things to tell kind of the story that he's telling, or to explain a concept that he's trying to work through. So this one is about success and successful people, and basically he writes about multiple different people in different situations, some very famous people, some people who were successful, some people who were not successful, and explores like where'd they come from, when were they born, down to like the date in a month or a year, when, where, what's their culture, who did they come from, their family, did they have immigrant parents, like everything. And then does the culture affect how the person speaks with somebody else? Like, I mean, we all kind of know that our lives, there's a story, there's a way that the life happens because of our environment, our families, our minds, everything. So everybody's life is unique because of all the different elements that come into it. But it was so crazy to read about this, and it really made me start to be like, wait a second, like how much free will do I even have? Like, is everything just predetermined? Is my life already, like my options and my opportunities are already there and nothing's gonna change? But then it started to, like, as I was reading, so at first it felt discouraging to me, but then as I was reading it, I was like, actually, it's kind of amazing, because it's almost like maybe there is a planned out path for your life of these are the opportunities that you're going to have. And a big lesson that I took from this book is that you're born in a certain time, and you're born with certain, amount of opportunities that are in your life and in the whole world. And how are you going to seize those opportunities that are present in your life, in your unique era? So I don't know. It was just really crazy. Let me see. He talked about the Beatles. He talked about Bill Gates. He talked about people with high IQs and saying that there's a study of multiple studies probably, but basically the conclusion is just because somebody has a high IQ doesn't mean that they're going to succeed. And there's a certain limit to if you have a very low IQ, then you're going to struggle in life. But once there's a certain there's a threshold of IQ that once you go past that, it's not going to make much difference between you at an extremely high IQ and the people at the average IQ. So that was super interesting. There's stuff about pilots of different cultures that, having issues with plane crashes because of the way that the pilots communicate to each other, and if they're assertive enough to bring up, hey, there's an issue, stuff like that. I'm just trying to run through this really quick. What are the other topics? Okay, so what is it, the 10,000 hour rule? Yeah, the 10,000 hour rule of basically a person can master something if they practice for 10,000 hours. That's the theory. So something about how the Beatles practice insanely because they were basically playing, before they were famous and successful, they would play as a band in some place constantly because that was their job. They were just hired to play at this place and they were constantly playing, stuff like that. There's things about I think it's hockey players in Canada that if you're born during a certain season during the year, a certain couple of months, you're more likely to become a professional hockey player. And if you're not born in that time, you're basically not going to be a professional hockey player. And it's just by chance because of timing and all of these things, and how old you are in your development physically to be able to join into the sport at a certain time, all this stuff. It's really crazy. And I highly recommend it for all these reasons. Then there's also, the Bill Gates thing is he happened to be born in a certain place at the perfect time right before, while coding was becoming very popular, or not becoming popular, but computer coding and everything had really just started. You'd have to read this. Please just read it. I can't explain it. But he was born at the right time because of when coding was beginning, and he was born in the right place because he was right down the street from a computer facility or whatever where people could go and do coding and just on the computers there. So in the amount of hours that he practiced and all of this stuff. So it's just by chance he was born at the right time in the right place, but also he sees that opportunity based on his interests and everything. And so it's how a person becomes who they become and the life that they have. It's just wild. Read the book. I could flip through and tell you a million quotes, but just read the book. If you're interested in self-help, if you're interested in things like this, read the freaking book. I thought it was great. I think about everything differently. So there you go. Read that one. Next, Just Kids by Patti Smith. This one was very good. I really liked this one. I don't really know if I have much to say. I think I've talked about it in other videos, but it's very good. For an artist, this is a great book. And for anybody that's interested in art, music, all this stuff in the 60s, I think it was the 60s, maybe going into the 70s, in New York, all the stuff, you've got some of the icons mentioned in this because this is Patti Smith, her writing about how she became an artist, a musician, singer, writer, everything, going to New York and then meeting Robert Mapplethorpe, who's a famous photographer, and their relationship on and off, romantically, their friendship, their soulmate friendship that they developed. And then Robert Mapplethorpe did end up dying, I think of AIDS. He died of AIDS. It was just the whole story of this amazing bond and destiny almost of two people to meet each other and then to foster creativity in each other and all of that. It was really, really nice to read. And when it ended, when it was over, it was really sad because I just wanted to live more in that world. This is not fiction, this is real. Their story, it's just really good. It's very, very famous. You've probably seen this book before and you've probably heard of it. But I would highly recommend it for anybody who is an artist or is creative or like sees himself as a creative. I would recommend it. It's the artist's responsibility to balance mystical communication and the labor of creation. I don't know. Read this. Next is this one. Maybe I'll leave this for last, okay? I'm gonna leave it. Just let me tell you about this really, really quickly. I already talked about this, I think. This is What is Real? The Unfinished Quest for the Meaning of Quantum Physics by Adam Becker. This is very good too, but this is gonna be a very niche interest for people. So I'll just go through it really, really quickly, really quick. Basically, it's about quantum physics. It's kind of like the history of the study of quantum physics from back in the maybe 30s through the 40s. I don't know if it was in the 20s at all. But, you know, it has Albert Einstein in it. Mentions basically all the famous and ones that you've never heard of, because I didn't hear about a lot of these scientists. Physicists, basically. Also talks about Oppenheimer at one point, if you're curious about the Oppenheimer movie that's coming out by Christopher Nolan. And then, of course, Barbie. I'm going to see both of them. Comment down below. Are you going to see Oppenheimer or are you going to see Barbie? Are you a film person? Are you going to see both? Because I'm going to see both. And I think they're both going to be fantastic. So if you want to prepare for Oppenheimer and you're curious about actual quantum physics, it is mentioned in here. There's a whole part about World War II and the invention of the atom bomb. That was my favorite part of this book because I like history. So I was like, this is so crazy. I didn't even know it was going to be in this. But it's kind of a good read if you're curious about quantum physics, but you can't understand it at all. This helped me understand it a lot more, but it's going to be dry for people who aren't into, like, it's very niche. So I would recommend it for people who like science, who are curious about quantum physics, all of that stuff. It's a good one. It's very good. And I don't read anything about science, so I liked it, but it's so niche. I will leave it at that. And now we will get into this really quick. But this is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. So I read this book because my sister wanted me to read it because she's been reading all these. She has become quite the fantasy reader, and I think it's so fun, and I love that she's reading all the time now. So we've been having a good time talking about fiction and fantasy. I don't read a lot of fiction, but I'm starting to read it more, and I read this for her. It's a romance. It's basically based off of or inspired by the story of Beauty and the Beast. There are fairies in this, but they're not like little fairies. They're like humanoid, like large regular people. They're like humans, but with extra powers and all that stuff. So basically this girl, Farah, she is immortal, and there's like this divide between the fairy lands and the human lands, and she's out hunting one day. This is at the beginning of the book. She's out hunting one day, and she, for her family, because they're like poor, she's hunting out in the forest, and she finds like a wolf, and she's like, is that a fairy? Because the fairies can shapeshift. So she's like, is that a fairy? Because you don't want to be attacked or killed by a fairy. There's all this myth in their world about that the fairies are very dangerous and powerful, and there was a war or something, and fairies killed a lot of humans. It's a whole thing. I won't go any further than that, but she ends up being taken into the fairy lands, and she meets a high lord fae, and she falls in love with him, but there's all this like problem, and there's all this stuff going on in the fairy lands, that some kind of blight is upon the land, and then it all builds, and she's like falling in love with this guy, and then it all builds to later. Then there's this whole like everybody's kidnapped and taken into this. I shouldn't say any more, but there's a whole thing at the end, and you know, it's like kind of one of those strong female characters, romance, and all that. Now, I don't like the writing. I do not like Sarah J. Maas's writing, but I will say it's very easy to read. I flew through this book, and I'm actually on to the second one. So I'm reading this. This is A Court of Mist and Fury. I am reading the second one because it's fun. I have my thoughts that it's not great. They're not amazing. I'm not even that into the stories at all. I'm not a fan of Farah at all. If you've read these, I don't like Tamlin. I don't feel anything for them. I actually like Lucian more, and I kind of wish that Farah had been with Lucian. But now in this, like, if you've read them, you know what's going on now. And it's better. It's better. I'm liking this more. I'm such a slow reader, but I'm telling you, like, I keep wanting to read this. It's not because it's amazing, but it's just really fun because it's just so low stress. Like, there's no stress. Like, I feel no stress reading these books. It's so easy and it's just enjoyable. It's just like an actual nice pastime, which I don't usually see reading as for me. So it's actually really good. But yeah, so the writing is not great. I think Sarah J. Maas is like unhinged with the way that she writes some of these things. I don't know. The sex scenes are like shocking to me. I'm shocked. I was reading literally the first one in this. I was shocked. I forgot about how she writes about this stuff. I was like, this is too much for me. It's crazy to me. It's like a lot. Just the words. It's shocking because you're reading the story and it's like kind of mid, I would say. And then the sex scenes are like saying a little too much that I just don't even need to know that. I don't need to know what's actually physically happening. It's just weird. It's like a fan fiction that's intense, and I don't care about Feyre and Tamlin like at all. So to have the sex scenes, I was like, this is just weird. I don't need to know. But I'm enjoying the books, okay? I'm enjoying them. They're fun. It's fun and easy. So I don't know. I can't say I recommend it or not, but it's not a bad thing to read. Like, it's so easy. It's like no harm done at all to literally read these. Those are my thoughts. I thought it was like kind of cheesy, not the best writing. I think Sarah J. Maas is unhinged, but I can't not recommend it. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just a good time. And I don't even love the story like at all. I'm not really interested in the story at all, but it's still a good time. That's why. And it's not even fun. Like, the writing isn't fun either. And the communication between the characters is not fun or entertaining either. It's just easy. It's just so easy. And I laugh sometimes reading this book. Those are my final thoughts. That's my book review of all of these. I'll do some more reviews. If you want to subscribe at all, I guess I'm kind of a booktuber, sort of, at this point. I am doing a reading vlog of this book. This is The Portrait of a Lady by Henry James. So far, I really like it. And I've only gotten through, I'm on page 6. I keep rereading the first 6 pages because I really like the setting. So I don't know what the story's like yet, but I really like it so far. So if you want to know my thoughts on this book, I will be uploading a reading vlog, first ever reading vlog that I've ever done. I will be uploading that. So subscribe if you're interested. And then at some point, I will also talk about my thoughts on this. I like it, but it's, it's interesting. Okay, so I gotta go. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want. Check out my other book videos, and I'll get back to you later on everything. I never say that. What does that even mean? I'll get back to you. I gotta go. Thank you. Have a good day. That's all. Oh, check my links below for my Instagram or anything if you're interested. That's all. Okay, bye.